Hello and welcome back to final round coverage of the Alutaguse Open, 8th stop of the PDGA Euro Tour. This is the exciting conclusion final round back 9 of MPO lead card, brought to you by MDG Media. In only 9 short holes, we will crown your next champion. I'm Connor Wood, and with me, Elias Lukunen.
What is up, Connor? What is up, viewers? Nice to be here once again. We had some tight battling on the front 9. Nieminen and Daniel Davidsson tied for the lead at 23 under. Tamm only 1 stroke back, and Mauri Villmann only 1 stroke back of that. There was some good and bad moments in the front 9 for all of the players, but Jesse, notably the only one to keep it clean with no bogeys on the scorecard. Everybody else with at least 1 red stroke in there. And that's something you need to avoid on the back 9. The back 9 very scoreable, just like the front 9, but possibly even more scoreable. Starting on one of those very scoreable holes. It's a long one. Difficult to park, but very easy to get within putting distance. 132 meters. It's pretty much a wide open hyzer. Although today there was some difficult, strong headwind on this one. So overstable discs are gonna come in handy on this one. And hopefully not too overstable though, because that left side OB is no more than 12 meters away on the left side.
Getting us started here for the back 9, Jesse Nieminen has had a really strong performance, translating a lot of his looks to birdies and just playing consistently. And we see him come up just a little bit short and left, although really giving himself another opportunity there. And good control in the wind, all things considered. We see Albert now.
Albert really having the advantage on this one, as he has potentially some of the most power on both backhand and forehand. In this case, obviously backhand. He's going with something really overstable, even skipping to the second tier on the green. Or the first tier, excuse me. First tier, the edge of the first tier, marking a 10-meter circle, so he's just inside the circle on that one.
Daniel there, coming up just a little bit short, not able to quite be contesting with the plateaued green, the upper tiers, but will have a long look if he chooses to, although in this wind at that distance going slightly uphill would take some significant risk. We see Mauri here had an incredibly hot start to the front 9, going 5 through 5, and then cooled down a little bit at the back end. We'll see his momentum here as he looks to kick off his back 9. Does find himself at the edge of the first tier.
That's 4 pretty decent drives in this wind, but nobody really close. So it's gonna come down to putting. Daniel here obviously just laying up as he's well outside the circle. But the other guys have more of a decision to make. Yes, potentially from just outside the circle. And what a great run that is in the left to right headwind he had from that angle.
Mauri Villmann, good for it though. Really beautiful use of the nose angle and a perfect pace to that putt. You see what it means to him in this crucial moment. Let's take another look at the slow-mo replay. Mauri Villmann, a very clean form with a sort of hybrid staggered, straddled putt. And you see the nose angle there. Strong side. Great delivery.
Yeah, that's just so impressive in that strong headwind. He didn't even put a lot of pace on the disc. Compared to his normal putting style, it was a little bit softer, just able to control the angle perfectly. And yes, there looks like unfortunately he did find the OB off the drive, so he's gonna have to settle for a bogey. And all of a sudden Daniel has a 1-stroke lead over everybody. As we're moving on to one of the most difficult birdies on the course. If not the most difficult, hole 11 is 120 meters, and the shape is just a huge tight anhyzer shot. You need to get around or even over some of these corner trees and turn your way as far right as you can. Especially in today's wind, as we had a strong tailwind on this one. Very easy to go long, push too far straight without getting that right turn in this tailwind. And pretty much mandatory to get over the trees on your drive, just like Mauri is doing here. If this is not too tight, it's gonna be great. But that might have actually been a little bit even too tight on this one.
But absolutely requiring a true commitment to the angle here. We saw that from Mauri. We see that from Daniel as well. So this one looks to have spiked down in a reasonable position. Daniel will be in play. We see Albert now. This hole coming in just slightly over par at 3.07, with the majority of players taking par. Nearly 80% speaks to just how difficult it is to birdie this one.
Albert here getting the common result of this third round of fading too far out. Not quite understanding the strength of that tailwind. And I'm a little bit surprised that looks like all of these guys are going with a fairway driver instead of a slower mid-range. But Jesse has a really nice angle on this. But you can see that fast disc and tailwind pushing it still too far past the basket to the left.
Mauri left with this short scramble shot, and he has laid it up beautifully inside the circle. Will be within a comfortable putting range, just 5 or 6 meters for him. Solid scramble. And Albert, an open look into the hill, playing the forehand, could give this a soft bit if he chooses to. Gives a nice soft delivery, very safe into bullseye. Not taking any chances.
Yep, very common result there on this one, as it is incredibly difficult to be inside the circle here. But Daniel had a long look from circle 2 and a nice looking line out of the hand, just coming up short. And yes, even a little bit closer. This would be a huge stroke swing if he can get this. But not quite. Nice aggressive bid in that uphill grade. Looks like everybody is gonna have to settle for a par on this one.
Joining the 80% majority there. This one, definitely an opportunity to put yourself ahead with an amazing drive or putt. We see Jesse now coming back for his par. And very important, I think, as we approach these final holes, with the scores being so tight between these competitors, they're going to start taking a little bit more time, even on these short putts. Critical moments here. But no one taking too much damage as we find the par frame.
Yep, no damage there, nothing gained, nothing lost. I'm sure at least Daniel is very happy with that result, as he's still leading by 1 stroke. Going on to a much easier of a birdie, hole 12. 113 player, 13 meters, playing as a huge hyzer. For these guys, they can take a nice glidey overstable disc, hammer it very high through the gap with a lot of hyzer. Hopefully move far left. It's almost impossible to move too far left with the hyzer on this one. So you have to play tight, high, and with a lot of hyzer. But for guys of this level of power, as these guys on the card have, it's a pretty simple shot to get inside the circle, or at least somewhere near the circle. Especially since we had a bit of a tailwind on this hole, making that distance just a little bit shorter.
Mauri has done just that. We see the significant leftwards movement, and he finds himself just at circle's edge, putting into that slight uphill grade. And Mauri's been very solid, throwing first off the tee so far historically in these rounds, showing good lines and setting a good pace, applying the pressure. Albert now looking to try and get a little bit closer, but this is a touch wider than Mauri's, with a lot of overstability, still not managing to move left far enough. Circle 2, though, will have a chance absolutely to attack.
Yep, 2 alright drives, but not really anything spectacular. You would really love to get inside the circle here. And looks like Daniel has a great chance to do that with a very inside shot. And almost acing the basket. What a nice shot there. You can just see how far left you need to move on this one, as Daniel was extremely inside and high, and still landing in line with the basket.
Yes, with an early release catching branches, he loses significant distance and still very early in the fairway. And just some salt in the wound here, the barriers being in his backswing, also preventing a run-up. Having to go to that standstill, throwing a great backhand spike hyzer, and he is just outside bullseye. A good scramble shot that left him with quite a difficult upshot there, blind, but great navigation of that slightly tricky situation.
Nice showcase of that Nieminen backhand that quite rarely do we see on more of the wooded courses, but good showcase here in the open, and Albert giving it a lofty bid, surprisingly putting it way above the basket with a softer than usual pace, possibly trying to not give himself a long comebacker. But Mauri here from the edge of the circle, and that's just called in the heart on the right side low. What a nice putt and a smooth looking stroke. Not only the good putt there, but that is gonna give him some confidence going forward in the round.
Oh, and a pivotal moment here as Daniel left with that short putt actually comes back out towards him and to the left. After effectively parking the hole, having a brutal spit out, Daniel just finds the par and does lose a stroke to Mauri there, who has now matched him at 23 under.
Yeah, that's a terrible spit out. It was low, it was soft, it was just with a tiny bit of hyzer. Might be one of the worst spit outs we have seen all year. And so far on coverage, I believe there has been 0 spit outs in these baskets, so very surprising. Just unfortunate to see in this sort of situation.
Absolutely a difficult context to take that hit, but Daniel now with an opportunity still to hold his head high, still in a share for the lead. Very important to not let that get to you, as you have only 6 holes remaining to try and close out a tournament that you've come into the lead card in first place on. But every hole's a separator here. What do we have, Elias?
Hole 13. Possible separator, although I'm sure none of these guys are hoping to be the one that is causing the separation, as it's a pretty easy birdie if you play it safe. You just need to miss these 2 trees. You can either go hyzer left side of them or even go for a huge shot all the way around them. No matter what you do on this hole, if you're on the fairway, you have a very manageable shot to the basket. Even the shortest drives, leaving yourself with only 100 meters left to the basket. Also, you're playing slightly uphill with that approach, so making the distance control just slightly easier even than compared to playing on flat ground. Mauri here, I believe, gonna show an unconventional route. Gonna go with a forehand and hyzer flex, trying to get some good distance down the fairway.
And we see some significant turn from him there, leftwards, unsure how much he pushed that. We'll see if it completed its flight back to the right. Albert now looking for a more traditional line here. Important to have the fade in time, and he pushes the late trees but able to fire through. That'll be a good position, as you mentioned, Elias, playing more of a safe placement shot than trying to bite off too much distance. Daniel now.
Daniel going for a similar line. Last round he actually ended up OB left with this pushing hyzer, but makes a great correction there, perfectly in the middle with a pretty simple approach left from there. And we're gonna see another Anheuser flex forehand from Jesse. Very comfortable shot for him, although this one is not looking great. He's firing towards that first tree, and actually gets a pretty good bounce out towards the left side of the tree, which is going to open up for another forehand shot from there. Hopefully able to get under the branches. But this is a pretty long forehand to get all the way to the green.
And the ceiling was definitely still in play for him there. But look at the execution. Finds the distance almost perfectly with a good skip towards the basket. Right in the circle. Jesse's bread and butter right there. We will see Albert now. Also very comfortable with the forehand. I think able to go full hyzer here. Use the width. And he's done just that.
What a nice shot there. And even utilizing the slight right to left headwind here, keeping the disc flying straighter than usual. And Daniel also going with a distance driver here, as he's more comfortable with some softer sidearm shots. And this is actually not great. He's even challenging the left side OB line. I believe just barely staying safe there. But a pretty big mistake with a simple approach.
Mauri giving it a great approach there. Even looking like a soft run. Finds himself just outside bullseye coming back. Very solid Daniel. We see here he does have an open putting stroke, but circle 2. Another interesting looking release, not finding the angle and spin as cleanly as we have sometimes seen him. And Jesse here in a very important moment securing that birdie.
Yep, well done there. And both Albert and Mauri looking to do the same here, as Albert puts it in. And he's getting his way up there near the lead. Mauri looks to have a chance here to gain a solo lead by 1 stroke over everybody else on the card. Assuming he's gonna make this 4-meter putt here, should be no problem. Whoa.
Oh.
Okay, that could
you
have
keep
been
the mystery
a problem.
alive, but that was a lot closer than I thought it would be in the end. But he's able to find it, and Daniel as well there.
I just think the plastic is very premium. It's a high quality material. The way the disc feels in my hand.
I think it's the quality of plastic.
It's unlike any other plastic that you'll find in the industry.
The quality is better than any other company out there.
Again, just consistent plastic. It's something I can consistently trust on every single throw.
There's so many discs to choose from, and I guarantee if you tried every disc in the lineup, you're gonna wanna put multiple discs in your bag.
It's extremely high quality. You can only say so much, they have to eventually just try it themselves and see.
And continuing the play on one of the most signature-ish holes on this course, hole 14, with the triple mando. If you miss this mando, either over, left or right, you're gonna have to proceed to the drop zone between the mando poles. But other than that, it's a pretty simple shot. You just have to throw it straight. Mando is at about 75 meters off the tee, so a very short shot. These players can really choose whether they want to go for a putter mid-range, or in this headwind that we had today, some people even clubbing up to a fairway driver.
Albert up first, getting it just softly overturned throughout the flight and not finding the fade in time. As you mentioned, slight headwind here, perhaps a bit right to left. We will see Jesse try to shape the forehand through. Using the full width available to him, finds the gap, skips his way into the circle. Very thematic hole here, and just some good defining disc golf. Can you hit the gap? It's a straight look. Pick your disc and shape. We'll see Mauri now.
Nice. Have to come back to Jesse's shot a little bit. He was really choosing that he's not going to park this hole. Just played for that inside the circle. But as Mauri has played it over the basket to the left, there is no OB there, so he's going to be completely safe. but that's gonna be a tricky putt from outside the circle, even going slightly downhill. And Daniel actually going with a Discmania Mutant here. Really overstable mid-range. And that is just not a great shot, but looks like he has actually stayed clear of the Mando line and might have one of the trickiest shots this course can offer.
Especially with this slope, important he doesn't put too much speed on this, and look at that touch. Great display of the turnover putter forehand roller. Really showing off his skill set and getting knuckles from Jesse. With that left to right slope, if he put even a little bit too much power, the disc was more likely to stand up given the downhill, and really good execution. We see Albert as well able to straddle to an open look and has a chance, but will be tapping in his par here on 14.
Mauri here going downhill from around 13 meters. Important putt, but he does not make it. Looks like on the last hole actually Mauri carded a par, so it's all tied between these 4 players. And yes, gonna fix that to his favor on this hole by getting a great birdie. He's gonna have a 1-stroke lead over everybody on the card. Pretty surprising to only see 1 birdie by these guys.
Absolutely, although on the day, hole 14 did average a 3.07, just over par. A few more bogeys than birdies on the day, but very few doubles or worse. We saw Jesse with the slightly conservative 1-angle hyzer finding the success against the other players who all went for a more aggressive flip-up line. Speaks a bit to Jesse's consistency with that forehand angle control. Let's go to 15.
Yeah, 15, one of the tougher par 4s on the course. Not by distance, it's just a regular 222 meter distance. But the drive is pretty tricky with this hazard area. Anything left of these red stakes is gonna be considered hazard. Also on the right side of the fairway there is OB. The hazard area continues all the way to the green, so anything up until these Alutaguse banners is gonna be considered hazard. And after that, you have a green that is just filled with OB and a left to right slope. There's a lot of rollaways to be had on this green if you're landing on a steep hyzer angle. A tricky hole off the drive, it's just important to stay right off that hazard and get a lot of distance to set yourself up with a short enough approach to have good touch to the green.
We see Jesse now on the tee taking the solo lead position for the first time here. He gets up there, center fairway, navigates it nicely, a good height there to ensure not find too much fade.
Today there was a bit of a left to right wind on this one, so keeping these drives more to the right than normal. This wind enabling the players to go with something slightly more overstable than usual. As you see from Albert there, nice shot with an overstable disc. And he only has a mid-range, even an approach disc approach to the green.
Mauri also very comfortable with this shot. As you see there, he does play slightly more to the left side of the fairway, but able to keep it clean, not quite as much distance. With a little bit more overstability and hyzer release, we'll see Daniel now if he chooses to push it. All of these guys just 1 stroke behind Jesse. I'm sure they're looking to attack, particularly on this hole. And Daniel has gone very low out of the hand and does not have as much progress as he would certainly like. Elias, would you say birdie is out of play here for sure?
Not out of play, but very difficult to make happen here, as Daniel has to go full power with an overstable distance driver. This is actually looking
and
really
he's
good.
Made it.
Wow. Crazy shot.
Daniel seizing the moment there off a slightly errant tee shot, showing his skill set, the control with the driver, getting his way to the green. Will be putting towards the downslope of that treacherous basket placement, but an amazing second shot to put himself up there We see Mauri now almost dropping it in. Some incredible approaches on display here on 15. This final round coming down the stretch, these guys are all here to win it. As we look at the strokes, it is such a tight battle.
And Jesse here also gonna go with the backhand hyzer. Surprisingly not going for his most comfortable shot, which would be the forehand. But the backhand hyzer playing really nice to this green, as Jesse shows right there. Great shot, 4 meters away. That's almost a guaranteed birdie and almost a guaranteed one-stroke lead going into the next hole.
Albert as well looking to spike his hyzer in. Fights over the benters and is in the circle. A little bit further away, but still with a very healthy putt remaining for him to try to find his stroke as well. We have Daniel up first. An important moment here. And he finds it. An incredibly high-risk putt there towards the downslope, but especially with a supportive tailwind, dropping his disc in, secures the birdie. We see Albert now.
Tough putt here with that left to right wind, but he gets it perfectly over the cage. And looks like we're gonna have a great chance to card a star frame on this hole 15, which is definitely not one of the easier holes on the course. What was the scoring average today on this hole, Connor?
Came in at a 4.13. Interestingly, we had 31% of birdie, par, and bogeys, with the few remaining percent going to double and over. It was a hole that had a very equal distribution.
And looks like that's exactly what happened. Not for this card though, as we have a star frame. Great approaches from everybody on the card. We're moving on to the final 3-hole stretch of the course, starting on 16. Not a very long par 5. Starting off from the open, just trying to get as much distance off the tee as possible. Some people trying to go all out with the backhand and hyzer. Some people rather going for a shorter shot, just to the open with a forehand hyzer. And on your second shot, it is just really important to hit the fairway and get as far down there as possible. There's many gaps to approach this green from, just really important to have as short as an approach as possible, because this is one of the most difficult greens you're gonna find on this course, but also any course in Europe. It's incredibly difficult to settle inside the circle here. And a birdie would go a long way on this hole in this situation.
We see Jesse up first, shaping the forehand hyzer flip, still very exposed to the wind on this initial shot before they begin to enter the tree line. We see Albert now. Has a great control, but that left to right wind movement, catching the flight plate, and you see that just get pushed to the side, although still able to fight his way up the hill. Mauri now.
Looks like it's a conservative play that all of these players are going for. Understandably so. This shot gives you a great chance at birdie, as Mauri is in the perfect position there, setting up for a slight hyzer release over that hillside and into the woods. But Daniel, only one on the card to go for this big Anheuser shot. That's a lot of power and a nice looking angle. Although he has turned it slightly more over than he would like. That's gonna be still kind of on the bottom of the hill, having to contend with that hillside, but a lot of distance. And he will, no matter what, find some sort of a way to scramble down the fairway from there.
An extremely aggressive line from Daniel at a point in the tournament where all three of these guys still one stroke behind Jesse. It speaks to his mindset. We see Albert there trying to fight his way up the hill, look to have slipped or found himself off balance and connecting with an early tree. That'll leave him with a lot of work left to do. Mauri getting solid progress up there with the long fighting hyzer in a great spot to keep navigating his way to the green.
Yep, very nice shot, and anything on par as far as distance with that FPO T-pad is going to be great for the second shot. As the SA is actually right next to it. That's going to be a straight shot to the green. He can also choose that outside forehand from the left side. So a good position there. And Albert really has to do something monumental here to get up and down for the par. Looks like he has a chance though.
That's really solid progress, considering the full standstill, the nose angle to match the hill, shaping it correctly, missing all the trees. That was a good break from him, but a tough break for Daniel there. Got very aggressive off the tee and on his second shot, unable to continue that attacking line there. Still left with this tricky third shot now.
Very aggressive going into this difficult green with a lot of speed, and he has ended up short. He's down the hill there, so it's going to be at least 5 meters up to the basket as far as elevation. Most likely just going to be a layup from there. So good chance, for example, for Jesse and Mauri here to get some strokes on Daniel.
And we see quite a tentative touch from Jesse there. Not too much height, just enough to go up the hill, but not clearing too close. But you mentioned just how difficult it is to stick this green, requiring incredible precision. A lot of these guys will end up with long looks, but Mauri Villmann, as I mentioned, it hits it to perfection, shaping the very last gap. Some incredible touch there from him.
And Albert here, even from this distance with only 45 meters left, incredibly difficult to get it to stick. But he gets it perfectly right next to Mauri there. And gonna have a good chance to save that par. So Albert still very much in the victory hunt.
Daniel really wanting that one. Trying to claw and fight as best as he can to continue battling for the lead. Does make a solid putt there for his par, I believe.
And Jesse here. Is this for a birdie? Or a par? I'm not quite sure.
I believe that was Jesse's birdie there.
Wow. I'm surprised the approach was that close. It looked like it hit some trees early. But a good break there, and he's gonna be tied for the lead at worst, as Mauri still has a good 5 meter putt here for the birdie. Or sorry, Jesse is actually gonna have the outright lead over Mauri.
Absolutely. Has gotten the last 4 in a row. Jesse really not letting up here on the pace down the stretch. And a great scramble for Albert, who was able to save par with one extremely short shot. Other than that, very well executed. Keep himself in play.
And we're moving on to 17, which in this situation is an absolute must birdie for these guys. Drone is flying through the straight gap, but none of these guys will likely go for that gap, as there's a great forehand hyzer gap to the left. It's a big gap with a lot of space, and all you have to do is to hit that gap with that forehand hyzer, put it pretty high up in the air, and hopefully glide your way to the right. Each and every one of these players has that exact shots in their bag, day in and day out, and I'm expecting everybody to be at least within putting distance here.
Jesse up first. Coming into this hole with the lead, and he has put himself in a great spot, just a few meters short of the pin. Great use of the width and angle there. As you mentioned, very favorable to the skill sets of all of these men. Mauri as well now with a little bit more height to his release. And spikes that one in as well. Looking like easy work for those two men. Both likely able to find the 2 here. Albert and Daniel have fallen to 24 under now, 2 behind the lead at Jesse. Jesse's 26.
And Albert here, nice high line. Looking like even a possible ace run. And what a run it was. Pin high just coming up to the left. That's gonna be an easy birdie for him. Still keeping the dream of the win alive, especially going into 18 that has a lot of scoring separation potential. And Daniel also, beautiful line here, a little bit shorter, not quite ace running, but that should also be just fine for the birdie. 4 shots inside the circle. This card really showing off that strong forehand skill of theirs.
And all of them in the circle. We see Jesse furthest of the bunch, just 7 meters or so. A great delivery to the strong side chains, retaining his solo lead going into the final hole. Great showcasing for that man, and proving he has a well-rounded skill set with the backhand as well. And Mauri, textbook Villmann putt.
An important stroke here for Daniel. He had some of those putting struggles earlier, but that's a good one right there. Perfectly in the middle. And Albert to finish out our, I believe, our 3rd star frame of the round.
You see Albert very routine oriented, even down to those shorter putts, leaving nothing to chance. And he's just been quietly sneaking along, maintaining pace with these guys and playing some great golf. We have just a few strokes separating our players as we move to the final hole of the Alutaguse Open.
And what a finishing hole it is. Hole 18, par 4 with the short distance of 188 meters, even playing slightly downhill. So everybody on the card very much has an opportunity to reach this hole in one with their first shot. There was a right to left wind, and you can see the OB right side on the edge of the field creeping inside the circle, path on the left lining the other OB, and also long, just outside of 10 meters, the OB comes into play. I would be very surprised if even one of these guys was not going for at least circle 2 on this drive.
Some great camaraderie and smiles there from our lead card. Going into the final hole. Yes, they're looking to maintain the lead.
And that looks pretty bad. It looks like it might have actually found the OB on the right side on the field. And Mauri here trying to make a correction, going with more of a flip-up hyzer shot. Great angle here, just needs to slow down before the OB right. And he does. That's just inside of circle 2. Gonna be an easy birdie if he wants it, and even a long bid for the eagle, if that's what he needs.
An incredible moment as Jesse opens the door a little bit to that lead position. Mauri walks straight through that door. He'll have the privilege of playing after Jesse as well. We see Albert here with the big spiking hyzer. But he too has pushed very straight and finds himself OB as well. I think all of these guys really trying to put the juice on this to try and attack for that eagle or at least stress-free birdie. And with the nerves of competition, final hole of the final round, some slightly errant releases. We see Daniel here pumping the big hyzer out and has some solid distance, but yeah, not in position to attack.
Yeah, unfortunately looks to have found the OB on the left side of the path, and both Jesse and Daniel and even Albert will have to go to this drop zone. That is no easy approach. Jesse here has left himself with a circle's edge putt, a putt that he will pretty much have to make because Mauri has an easy birdie chance.
Albert here, giving his bid to the green, and he also slides his way right up to about circle's edge. Looks to be just inside with a putt. Daniel now opting for quite a different line, going higher and wider with the Spikeheiser. Some big power there as he looks to crash in to the green, still potentially even hoping to find the birdie for him at the end of the tournament. He's left with 8 or 9 meters remaining to the basket here. We have Mauri up first. This is an eagle putt, able to lay it up for birdie. And he gives it a chance, but ensuring to keep that nose up and float it out a little bit, not too much pace. He is just outside bullseye still for his birdie 3. Incredibly important putt for Jesse now.
To push the playoff. And he just barely misses it. What a disappointing moment from Jesse there. And now Mauri will have a putt for the outright win.
Albert as well, unable to find his putter in the chains from circle's edge. This is Daniel here. Just low, I think. All of these men a little bit deflated going to the drop zone on the final hole. Albert to clean up his round. A bit low on the elevated basket, but is able to tap out, finding some trouble on hole 18. Still an incredible performance from that man there. Not the finish he's looking for, but can hold his head high knowing he had a solid performance here at a big stage. Mauri Villmann to putt it in for birdie and to be your 2023 Alutaguse Open champion. Look at that final 4 holes, Elias. When it mattered most, he executed.
That's just beautiful play and beautiful calm nerves.
Introduce you, new Lone Star Disc Alutaguse Open 2023 MPO champion, Mauri Villmann.
An incredible season so far for that man right there. Has shown to be an amazing competitor on the largest scale, and some incredibly dominant performances this tournament, however, coming down to the very last hole. And he's able to secure the trophy, walk away with the win. Mauri Villmann, incredible performance.
Yep, what a treat that round was. One of the tightest rounds we have seen throughout the season. Everybody was in it on the card until the very end. Thank you guys so much for watching, as we're gonna take a look at that top 10. Mauri first, Jesse second, and Daniel third. But after that, we saw Hjalte Jensen making his way to that tied 4th position. And also, good to note, both Jesse and Hjalte able to claim their USDGC spots from this tournament. So congratulations to both of those. Huge congratulations to Mauri Villmann for the victory. And thank you, viewers, and thank you, Connor, for doing commentary with me. It was a pleasure.
Some incredible coverage. Thank you to all the work done by the MDG crew. If you would like to support us, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, or check out our Patreon if you're feeling extra supportive. You guys are what help make this European disc golf coverage possible. Have a great day, and we'll see you at the next stop of the PDGA Euro Tour.